So we start with our formula. I know my two bases, but again, I don't know my height. Now, conveniently, this is an isosceles trapezoid. Why is that convenient?
Because it makes you congruent.
Because that means I know this is 2. And this is 2. Which means on a problem right on number 13, we already found that distance. If you got 6 and 2, the other one's 4 square roots of 2. So your area is half the height of 4 square roots of 2, base of 8, plus another base of 4. And when you work all that out, you get 24 square roots of 2, or as a decimal, 33.9. Again, if you're giving me decimal answers tomorrow, I want it rounded to the nearest 10. I'll have that on the paper, though, to remind you. What's number 17? No.
Trapezoid.
It's another trapezoid. Where, again, I know my two bases, but I've got to find the height.
Miss Allen, you couldn't use the other side? Never mind.
Well, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Hey, it's a 90-degree triangle, and one other angle is 45. So what's the other one?
45.
45.
90.
Which means these two things are equal to each other, right? What's the opposite side of a rectangle?
7.
And since the whole thing was 13, what's this? Which means the height is 6. So, you have a height of 6, and your bases are 7 and 13. Which gives you an area of 60. Isn't this fun?
Anyway.
Now on number 18, that's a rhombus, right? But we don't know either of the diagonals. So it can get pretty complicated trying to find those two diagonals. But since I do know one of those little angles, I can use the parallelogram formula and then sine, cosine, or tangent to find my height. And it would be a lot easier. Because a rhombus is a parallelogram, right? Okay? So, if I am going to look for h, the height of this thing, and that little right triangle's got a 50-degree angle, and 5 is the hypotenuse, and in relation to in relation to the 50-degree angle, what is h? Opposite or adjacent? Opposite. So what function am I going to use? The sine of 50 is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So the height is equal to 5 times the sine of 50. Now, don't round that answer. Punch it into your calculator, leave it on your calculator, and then multiply times the base. And round that answer. Okay? What was it on your calculator? Yeah, but give me more decimals.
3.832.
Keep going.
2.
Okay. All right, but as a point. Okay? Don't round that answer. Punch it in, leave it, then say times 5, and then round your final answer, and you should get 19.2 times 5. Yeah, 19.2. If you round your answer before, you're not going to get 19.2. You're going to get it may be up to 4/10 off in one direction or the other. Okay? All right, number 19. Do we have one formula for this shape?
No.
No, because this is a pentagon, and we haven't learned anything about a pentagon yet. But I can separate it into a triangle and a rectangle, which means my formula would be a triangle plus a rectangle, right? All right, well, in the triangle, do we know the base? The base is 8. The height is not 4. Sorry. I'm listening to you back there, but I know what you mean. This splits into 4 and 4, right? So what's the height of the triangle? 3. 3, 4, 5. Okay, so my triangle has a base of 8 and a height of 3. And my rectangle, what's my base and height?
8 and 4.
8 and 4. And so that's 12 plus 32 or 44.
What formula is
I used 2 formulas. I found the area of a triangle and added it to the area of a rectangle. Right. I didn't have one formula to find that. So it was a combo. And then what can you do to number 20?
Separate it into a bunch of
Put it into some rectangles. The easiest thing I came up with was this. You could do something else, but we got to pick one way and go with it. All right? And so what we have here is the area, of 3 rectangles. Right? Okay, well, let's start with this rectangle. Let's call this rectangle number 1. What's the base and the height?
5 and 6.
5 and 6.
Let's call this number 2. What's the base and the height?
5 and 6.
5 and 6. Let's call this big one number 3. 5 and 14. How did we get 14?
Because you had that.
7 plus 5 is 10.
This is 7. From here to here is 5. And here to here is 2. So that's 14 total. Alright, so that's 30 plus 70. Or 130. Okay, so remember tomorrow I'm going to want your formula, I'm going to want the dimensions, and then I'm going to want the answer. Now, like I said, I'm just looking to see if the answer's right. If it's wrong, that's when I go back and start trying to see where you messed up. But I want it all in the front so I don't have to be flipping through pages. Okay? All right.
This is very convenient.